Do you want to play a game with exploding babies?
Who would want to play a game with exploding children?
Oh, come on, just try it. I even brought you a remote.
But I don't want to play a game with exploding children in it. It's not a thing I want to do.
Take it.
But I don't want to.
Take it!
Fine.
How's life, everybody? 2020 has been rough, I know, but hopefully you can watch this, take a chill pill, and relax. But Isaac Clarke will never relax, especially since Visceral Games is dead and Dead Space 4 will never be released. More than likely. Haha, yeah, they're useless. They didn't do anything in the entire story. Strauss and Tideman did nothing. Tideman's role in the story could have easily just been, oh look, the Necromorphs made this area inaccessible, let's go into a different route. That was the epitome of his character until the very end of the story, which I will not talk about yet, but that's all he was. Tideman's character was so easily replaceable by the Necromorphs themselves. This is evident by Dead Space 1, because in Dead Space 1, the Necromorphs were the only things in your way, which made it pretty much story cohesive. Tideman barely showed up. He would talk to Isaac like 2 times. You found some of his audio logs and or text logs, and even then it was near the end of the game, and Tideman just shows up more towards the end of the game, which at that point he's just an afterthought, if anything, and he just shoots Isaac once, and then Isaac kills him. So his character really wasn't important at all. I had no emotional ties towards Tideman. I had no anger towards him at all. They did not expand him at all. He was just a figurehead for the government sector in the game, and that wasn't good. So Tideman's character could have been completely gone, and the story would probably still be the same, except for being the 1 or so times Isaac was quote-unquote gunned down by government flying ships, or the sunbeam that he apparently has power to that he didn't use at all. None whatsoever, even though he apparently knows where Isaac is at all times. Well, not at all times, most of the time he knows where Isaac is, but he never used it, ever, until that one moment on the rail, making them go back to the USG Shimura, which I found dumb, but yeah, I just don't think Tideman's character was needed. It could have been easily replaced by the Necromorphs, and you cannot convince me that Tideman is not just a roadblock that they needed and threw him in and was horrible at his job. Speaking of being bad at your job, take a look at Strauss. At the beginning of the game, we asked him how to destroy the marker because he kept talking about the steps to destroy the marker. Lo and behold, later in the game, he was completely useless and was easily replaceable by the Nicole apparition throughout the entire game. Oh, this story makes me want to die and laugh because of how easily replaceable some of these characters are. We basically first meet Strauss at the beginning of the game in what I like to call the straitjacket phase through a video where he is going over some things he's talking about to, I think, a sergeant person if I'm not mistaken, but we find him again later being all crazy-like because he's crazy, and that's basically what his character is. One of the main reasons why I say his character isn't needed whatsoever is because the Nicole apparition herself says, Step 4, acceptance, after Strauss has been telling us the steps the entire time. Therefore, I do not think Strauss was needed, and Nicole apparition played a bigger part in the story herself than Strauss, and she could have given the steps the entire time, especially even after the eye surgery machine. Both of these characters were useless, if not borderline useless, because Tideman's character could easily be written down as, hey, I'm a barrier. It can also be written as an antagonist by the player. And Strauss could have been easily replaced by the Nicole apparition, except for one aspect of the story called Isaac and Ellie's relationship. Strauss allowed that to develop a little bit, but that's all his character did, and it could have been easily replaced by any other character or a new character, etc. That's all I can give Strauss and Tideman. 3 years after the events of Dead Space 1, Isaac Clarke has been drugged consistently and has been making markers for the government who want it for unlimited energy. But there's a faction of religious people called the Unadulterated who worship the markers and simp for Michael Altman. He was the first one to find out the marker's true energy source and was immune to it, but he also wanted to destroy the markers, yet the government killed him, covered it up, and made it a religious symbol. Anyway, government assassinations aside, both sections wanted Isaac to make more markers, either for unlimited power or just for the convergence, which is where all the necromorphs converge onto one thing and make a blood moon, which will be explained in Dead Space 3, and it's not a blood moon, I call it the meat moon. He escapes a hospital in a straitjacket thanks to a dude, but other than that, it is just Isaac's no good, very bad day in multiple locations with other people. The better of all those people basically just being Ellie. But the whole story this time around focuses on Isaac and the experience he went through on the Ishimura and dealing with the marker signals and mind messing whilst he makes his way to destroy the giant marker he made. Throughout the entire game, I never felt Isaac's motive to be real. Like, I assume he felt bad that he made it and in turn felt like he needed to destroy it for doing it to everyone there. But A, he was drugged, B, it was never explicitly told, and the only other thing I could think of was he wants solace in knowing he can give up his girlfriend because he couldn't save her even though she was already dead before he got to USG Ishimura, and he kept feeling bad for himself. But in the end, I still don't get it. I think his motive was probably the latter. It would make sense if it was the latter, but it was never basically told because he saves Ellie. I don't know. It's weird. But that basically was the entire story. The rest of it just felt like Isaac needed to go from A to B, and B to C, and C to D, and so on and so forth just to survive, or overall get to the marker and let Ellie escape. And off of that, I guess I can now talk about Ellie, because she was one of the highlights of the game. I personally like Ellie's character for both Ellie and Isaac's sake, because her character allowed Isaac to right a wrong he felt he did in not being able to save his girlfriend, even though she was already dead, and Ellie as a character just showing how someone else would survive, because she isn't herself an engineer like Isaac is, but her character's fine and it lets Isaac right a wrong. But after all of that, we basically get to the end where Isaac confronts the marker who is using his ex-girlfriend to lure him there for convergence because they know that Isaac is the biggest threat to them, and he destroys it. After a bullshit amount of times. And oh look, Tidemoon's there. You suck. And oh hey, you might be thinking based off the background footage that's the end of Dead Space 2 with a very convincing end credits of Isaac just sitting there. Nope. Ellie comes crashing through the window and Isaac Clarke using his jet engine space fuel out of his suit propels himself towards Ellie's ship. Ellie grabs him, pulls him in, and that's the end of Dead Space 2. And we get a cute little gag of the ending of Dead Space 1 without the jump scare. Thank God. Now after that cute little ending scene, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. In the first game, Isaac was a silent protagonist, allowing us as the player to put ourselves onto him. Then they gave him a voice. It's not bad, the voice actor did a really good job, and I like it. It's a weird and welcome change. I have no critiques about it, it works and it gives Isaac a character and furthered by the first game itself, yet what some people say, I don't disagree about what they say, but it does further Isaac as a character in my opinion. Especially with some of these voice clips from what he experienced.
There are necromorphs everywhere. Is the entire sprawl infected? How'd this happen? The marker was destroyed, Dana. I destroyed it.
You destroyed a marker, Isaac. Tybin built another one.
On this station? Why?
It's powerful alien technology. Tybin wants that power. Get to the tram. It'll take you to the Cassini Tower's premises.
Dana? Damn it.
This plan is going to work.
I'm almost there. I'm headed to the bridge now to activate the gravity tethers.
All good. They're swarming in through a hole in the medical deck. At least you won't have to go through there.
Unexpected obstruction ahead. Shutting down. Welcome to the medical deck.
Crap.
One shred, one light, one bright shining star you cluster in this universe. Guilt. Forcing the life out of you because you can't get over the fact that I'm dead and you're not responsible. Why do you keep fighting me? Why can't you let go?
Because you are my everything. And if I let you go, I've got nothing left.
No! It's a really bad idea.
I'll stick around. I'm full of bad ideas.
I personally don't know how to entirely critically analyze a story in a video game. I'm just starting, but because I'm judging the game's story itself as a sequel, not as the lore of why the markers exist in the story, but just as a sequel. And as a sequel, I think it does a really good job, except for Strauss and Tiedemann, but the more I think about it, Strauss is a better case to argue than Tiedemann, and they just sucked as characters, and pretty much weren't needed. It was more Dead Space than Dead Space 1. There I said it. Please don't murder me. Now I'm gonna explain, before I get castrated. Dead Space 2 had more zero-G moments, airtime limit moments, and overall actual space moments than Dead Space 1, because again, if you told me Dead Space 1 was in an underground mining facility, except for the very few key points in the game, I would still believe you. Unlike in Dead Space 2, which had a lot more space moments in the game, it felt more sci-fi, and the locations that it had helped. Those locations being Spacetown, churches, mines, facilities, and Electric Boogaloo. For the locations themselves, I don't have much to add. The atmosphere works. The Visceral games made each environment feel unique from each other and extremely suspenseful going into each room. Wondering what kind of necromorph would pop out of the walls or the ceiling, and dreading each encounter that you had. And sometimes, it was randomized. And that's pretty much all I personally have to say. I'm not entirely good with the atmosphere and why they work. They just work for me. I feel suspenseful in these situations. And I believe they portrayed a sci-fi environment as of what we base sci-fi off of really well. And that lit up rooms still don't feel safe, and I applaud them for that. One very important thing I want to say and talk about is the USG Ishimura, or rather the reuse of the USG Ishimura, aka the Electric Boogaloo part of the game, because I don't know if it was clever or lazy, because we only play it for a single chapter and it's pretty much the exact same except with quarantine walls.
If you don't want to hear me complain about the plasma cutter for the next, 10 minutes, skip to the here where you can hear my unadulterated thoughts. Anyway, I appreciate you watching this.
First things first, they made stasis and telekinesis a lot more vital compared to Dead Space 1. Even though I did not play Impossible in Dead Space 1, I still personally felt like it was never useful in Dead Space 1 whatsoever. Zealot, on the other hand, is a demon in and of itself, but I'm only going to mention Zealot when it's relevant to specific aspects of the game.
Yeah, Zealot mode sucks, and getting one-shot by every boss in the game is not my cup of joe.
Therefore, I'm going to start off with the Wombo combos. The Wombo combos are not fun, and what I mean by that is just basically being stun-locked and then hit and instantly dying, and or getting hit into another hit and about to die. As soon as you are stun-locked, you might as well just throw your controller out the window, because you are either going to die or die because you have no control. It completely takes away all control from the player, especially when they just pop out of a ceiling or the wall and you can't do anything because you're already stun-locked and you're automatically hit. And by the gods, if you're lucky that they don't hit you and you can stasis them, you're just lucky. And this was bound to happen because you have no movement abilities whatsoever except for running. And if you were hit and stunned and you can't run, and you're going to get hit right out of that, you can't do anything about it. Because sometimes even if you stasis a necromorph, it has a chance to hit you because it has active hitbox frames. But infinite Dark Souls stunlock out of the way, that is kind of just a slight annoyance in the game. And now I'm going to talk about the gameplay itself. It's pretty much the same as Dead Space 1. I don't know what else you want from me. You just shoot the limbs off, and you go on with your day, and you hope you don't die. But the game itself, in my opinion at least, is a lot more varied compared to its predecessor, offering more guns and more enemy types to dispatch. Yet the problem arises when I just run around with the plasma cutter the entire game, making all the other guns completely useless to a point, because each gun has what it's best at. But when the beginning gun, basically the starter gun that you can upgrade, is the best gun in the game that can handle every single enemy, you don't need or even feel like you need any other gun in the entire game. And this is especially true on Zealot, which I just played with the starting gun mostly in telekinesis, but I picked up the line gun a little bit later, maybe like chapter 5, but still, I considered playing the entire game with just 2 of the same starting gun because you get another plasma cutter if you beat Dead Space 1 on the same console, making yourself even more broken than you already are. And I haven't even gotten to the upgrade system yet. The amount of guns that are in this game encourages experimentation with it. You would assume, hey, more guns, maybe this gun is actually better at taking out, I don't know, the pack compared to the plasma cutter. Nope, completely wrong. The pack is still taken out pretty easily with the plasma cutter or just a sock thrown at them. You can throw a traffic cone or a sock and they will still die, including on Zealot. They will still die in one telekinesis throw on Zealot. And I am baffled by it. And I keep saying pretty easily, and by pretty easily, I mean one shot will take them out. And this means you don't really need to buy any other gun in the game, and that's just one of the reasons why you don't need to buy any of the guns in the game. Is the other because it's Isaac's main gun because he's an engineer, therefore he's good at cutting things, therefore plasma cutter OP? Or is it because the ammo manipulation is a thing in this game that's also very extremely stupid? And the plasma cutter is just completely broken because ever since the first game, you get drilled with knowledge that you need to cut off their limbs. And this makes it stupid when you get offered a flamethrower when you know you need to cut off their limbs. And you might say, hey, maybe the flamethrower's for the pack. But you've already used the plasma cutter on the pack, and you've also seen that they die in one shot or one telekinesis. It's not that hard. None of these other guns hold any sort of power over the plasma cutter, except maybe the contact beam because that does just massive amounts of burst damage, but even then the plasma cutter still does a lot of damage for DPS towards a boss. It's stupid. Regardless, this is not the biggest problem of the game. The biggest problem of the game is ammo manipulation, and it applies to every single gun, yet it makes the plasma cutter even better than it already is. Ammo manipulation is present in both Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2, and it just further exacerbates why you don't need to use any other gun in the entire game. What it essentially boils down to is, if I have the choice between 2 cans of soup with no repercussions if I choose both, why wouldn't I choose both? So I choose both, start killing people, and I get the soup I don't like as much more over and over again. So, with this knowledge, I'd go back and only choose the soup I like to get more of that soup. I go and kill people, and now I only get that soup from now on. Therefore, why would I choose both soups? Let alone, why not just choose one soup? That is essentially ammo manipulation in this game. Why should I choose any other gun when I get rewarded a bunch of ammo for the gun that I have currently? 9 times out of 10, when I kill someone, I will get that ammo as well. And if it's the plasma cutter, it makes it even better because you would never run out of ammo for it. And that 1 out of 10 chance you get ammo for another gun, you can just sell that to buy more ammo for the plasma cutter. And this doesn't just apply to the plasma cutter. You can apply this to the flamethrower or maybe the line gun. You can still apply this to all of them and it would still work. Use the line gun only, you only get line gun ammo. Put the other guns in your storage, you only get line gun ammo. 1 time out of 10 you don't get line gun ammo, sell it, buy more line gun ammo. Now take all of what I've just told you and put it on top of an upgrade system. Therefore, the gun you are using, you can make it even better with more ammo and damage and more things to come. A short explanation of the upgrade system is you get a power node and you put it in a slot in a weapon, your rig, stasis, or telekinesis to upgrade, say, its capacity, damage, or whatever that specific thing has. And after playing on Zealot, I'm pretty sure it's kind of a waste of time to do it as well. You might be asking, hey, it's an upgrade system. How can an upgrade system be useless? Well, on any difficulty in the game on one playthrough, you will not have enough nodes to fully upgrade anything. That's not bad, but if it's a story game and it's a one playthrough, one and done, which is a majority of what people will do, no one's going to replay the game to fully upgrade this one weapon, because even then you don't have to fully upgrade the plasma cutter for it to still 1 to 2 to maybe 4 to 5 shot the later enemies in the game on Zealot difficulty. But maybe on another difficulty or even on Zealot, because I have seen the video where someone takes completely no damage whatsoever. They can optimize their credits to buy power nodes to get a lot more upgrades in their system and know where all of the power nodes are. That being said, I'm still not putting away the point that it's almost completely not worth it. But the only thing that I would recommend upgrading in this game is your rig's health, because you will get 1 to 2 shot by a majority of the enemies in this game, and you also get 1 shot by a boss's projectile, and in the later enemies, even at max health upgrade, I was getting 2 shot. And at the final boss, I was getting 3 shot. Therefore, it's not fun, and I recommend upgrading your health, because again, rig's air upgrade is not useful. You can survive in 0G segments infinitely. You can just sit next to an infinite air supply, go downstairs, bring your controller with you. After 1 minute, hit A, you'll have enough air, make yourself a sandwich. You'll come back, you're perfectly fine. Other than that, upgrading doesn't really matter much. You can upgrade your stasis and how many shots you get and how long it is, which I personally think is a little bit more useful than how I'm perceiving it as. And you can also upgrade your telekinesis to have more damage on it. That's pretty much all it does. Other than that, I only upgraded my plasma cutter's damage like 1 or 2 times, and it was still killing necromorphs with relative ease. But still, as a final verdict on an upgrade system, it has more pros than cons, but I still have a very slight, maybe medium nitpick with it. But hey, it's an upgrade system. You can do what you want with it. I just have my gripes. But hey, let me talk about something I actually like about the game. And that's how each encounter can be taken any which way you want to take it. Dead Space 2 allows you to take each encounter which way you want to. There are a plethora of ways you can go about it, and each encounter can be handled by the player themselves, including how they want to use the environment around them, and basically just with the plasma cutter, unless you just want to pick up a bucket and repeatedly throw it at a necromorph. Even though I joke about using a bucket to kill a necromorph, you can still do it, and it is still vital if in certain situations if you want to conserve ammo. Or, if you just wanted to easily dispatch one, you can use stasis and shoot its arm off with 1 or 2 plasma cutter bullets, then kinesis its claw and shoot it right back at them. Or again, another way to do it is you just shoot off the legs, stasis them, run up, stomp, or punch to kill them. Hell, you can even use exploding babies instead of bullets to conserve the ammo, or just the bodies of the necromorphs themselves. There are many more ways to kill the necromorphs, including the different kinds of ways to kill the different types of necromorphs, such as the line gun alt fire on hiding stalkers, but I digress. Now, later game enemies, on the other hand, can go die in a fire for all that I care. On Zela, it's hell to fight them, because more than likely it's going to be a 1 to 2 shot, but in the later game it's just a more powerful version of the enemies that you've already fought, so it's still a 1 to 2 shot. And you'd theoretically think, oh, it'd be semi-easy to fight them because you already know how they fight, but no, they just become worse because they are also faster. That's pretty much all I have to say about the ending section of the game enemies, except for the Regenerator. That dude I actually pretty much like because he's just basically the Regenerators from RE4. I don't even think he's called the Regenerator. I think he's called the Ubermorph. But regardless, he's basically just the Regenerator from RE4, and he does his purpose. He chases you down, you can't kill him, makes you panicked and go through each room faster. He does his purpose, he's fine. Didn't really have any problem with him. And after all that, the only talking point left for the gameplay is what genre it is, because it is a controversial topic when talking about Dead Space 2. But I also believe it is an action survival game because they dropped the ball on the horror. And I say action survival because based off of Dead Space 1, they, again, dropped the ball on it. Dead Space 1 had so much more horror because they focused on one location, basically just the USG Ishimura, and the wonder of the player not knowing what was on one ship and what the ship would do to it. AKA us, not it. Why are we it? Dead Space 2 focused more on set piece from location to location and how it affects the player, and it didn't really stick unless you had very specific set pieces. Like, I could barely remember the plaza in Dead Space 2 when I replayed it with the little spinning blue Mega Man looking boy. Barely remember that. But every single turn in the USG Ishimura from Dead Space 1, I could pretty much remember because of how memorable that place is compared to the location to location of Dead Space 2. And if you've played Dead Space 1, every single time the Nicole apparition appears, she keeps referring back to what happened in the Ishimura, making you remember the Ishimura more than the places in Dead Space 2. And I get because it's a sequel, you want to call back and why he's going through it, but that it doesn't apply to each location that we're in right now. I guess maybe except for the church and unitology, but they didn't focus on that at all, which sucks. It would have been awesome if they focused on that in just one location like they did in Dead Space 1. Because this all ties back down to Dead Space 2 is more action-focused than before, basically going from location to location, not focusing on one thing in its horror. And again, action-focused isn't entirely bad at all. It did eventually get my skin to crawl at around 4 a.m. at points when I'm by myself, but that's All it was the monstrosities, the necromorphs being thrown at us. Sometimes it would get my skin to crawl because they looked creepy. Most of the time I just looked at them as fodder, as I need to get past them to further the story, which I care about a little bit more. And this isn't entirely a bash. I personally think it's a thing they could have done better. Like how I think Visceral Games should have just focused on 2 locations. More importantly, the church and the mining facility. One, because unitology was the main focus of the story and reason why most of what was happening is happening. And the mining facility because it would have shown the planet cracking and what they did to find the markers and why they wanted the markers so much. Maybe the government sector where the giant marker was, where Isaac built, could have been the end piece. Like how in Dead Space 1 was just the USG Ishimura, and then the ending planet. But, I digress. The game is still really good. I just have a small, maybe medium-sized story nitpick, and kind of a major gameplay nitpick, or critique, because ammo manipulation kind of brings the game's variety down a lot. But, the game's still really good, and honestly, give it a play. It's extremely good. So this section I don't have any script for. I just want to get some unadulterated thoughts that I liked or did not like about the game that I couldn't fit into the 3 other sections. So if you just want to skip this because you don't care, go ahead. You can go to this timestamp. But honestly, I think you might want to listen to some of this because some of those features they didn't talk about in the gameplay or whatever section. So to begin, this game is multiplayer. It's pretty fun. It's a 4-on-4 engineer versus necromorph. The objective of the engineers is to just do whatever the map is telling you to. Maybe start a generator or start multiple to get to an objective. And the necromorphs, you can switch between ones you want to play on respawn. And the objective of the necromorphs is just to kill the engineers. I don't know if it's infinite respawn for the engineers, but I think it's infinite for the necromorphs. And a necromorph can infect an engineer. I don't remember entirely. But multiplayer is fun. I don't know if there's any more people on it, but when the game became free on Xbox, there was a lot of people playing it. As of now, I don't know, but it has multiplayer, and it was pretty fun when I played it. I don't have any footage of it, but I do remember the line gun being overpowered. Anyway, yeah. I've always loved the no HUD of Dead Space. It gives a sense of actually being there at points, and immersion is such an overused lingo in gaming now, but it kind of does immerse you at points. You with no HUD, you kind of feel like you're there experiencing it. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of Dead Space. Oh, and the fact that the only point that basically a HUD shows up is when you go into your menu, and you can still control Isaac while you're in the menu. So say you want to change something on the fly or heal yourself on the fly with a specific health pack, and even then when you aim your gun, you see the line. You don't have a crosshair when you're not aiming your gun. You punch or kick. And when you aim your gun, you actually see where you're going to shoot and your ammo count. It's like it's actually showing up in front of Isaac and what he sees himself at. And we as a player, we see it now too. The gore and screams in Dead Space bring a sense of realism that I've never felt before in any other game, especially when Isaac dies to the last boss in Dead Space 1. Just I feel like they actually tortured the voice actor, making him scream when he dies or gets hurt. It's that real. It's just the amount of realism Dead Space brings at points is kind of scary, and what made Dead Space 1 scarier. But again, the screams and gore are awesome in my opinion for this game. Other than that, all I can really think about is the music. The music in Dead Space was just orchestrated. That's all it was. It was just an orchestra. And every time a necromorph popped out of anywhere or did anything, it was just orchestrated. I felt like I had an orchestra following me from behind every step I took. It was ridiculous. Like, it's not bad. The ambiance, on the other hand. The ambiance sounds and music, they were awesome. But anytime like a necromorph did an action or something, it was just orchestra in my ear 24/7. It got on my nerves a little bit. I got over it and just tuned it out, and then just focused on actually killing the necromorph. But it just sucked at points. It's not like it's bad orchestra, it gets annoying, and the ambiance is a lot better. But yeah, it was just orchestra. And the music of ambiance and a little bit of the original was fine. So yeah. I guess second to last would be the set pieces. The set pieces, in my opinion, were fine. And if you don't know what that is, take every single encounter you have with Nemesis and RE3 make and put that in here. Just make it like 2 times and you're good. The set pieces were fine and awesome, especially when we're falling down the train and then we're hung upside down and shooting things. I find set pieces that are interactable a lot better than just set pieces that just want to show off tech. Because you can have the fanciest tech, but if I have my controls taken away from me, I will absolutely hate it. And if I'm just watching something, it almost feels like a Kingdom Hearts cutscene at points. I'm not joking. Same thing kind of sort of goes with the cutscenes as well, because in Dead Space 1 we can actually still move around and do stuff during like specific quote-unquote cutscenes, when really the only cutscene in Dead Space 1 was at the very beginning of the game and the very ending of the game. But in Dead Space 2, we basically know when a cutscene is going to start when we have no control over Isaac. He's doing some random motion and his helmet demorphs. And when his helmet morphs back again, I would say, we have control of Isaac and we're done with the cutscene. It's weird because, and I liked it better in Dead Space 1 because we still control of Isaac and we could look around the environment, and actually, if we actually cared about the story, we would look at what was happening. If not, we could look away. But now we're forced and locked on, mostly because they gave Isaac a character, or just a voice now. But, yeah, it's fine. It's just a little thing I noticed. It's nothing major. Graphics hold up really well. They're pretty much awesome. I don't know if that's because I'm playing on Xbox One off of a backwards compatible 360 game, but graphics hold up really well. Yeah. And I guess lastly, I love the armor. I'm a sucker for good armor, or just armor in general. And the amount of different armor in Dead Space 2, including in multiplayer, is awesome. I love his suit. I loved his suit in Dead Space 1. His suit looks awesome in this one, including the upgraded advanced suit. I thought when I saw it first, I was like, wow, this isn't Isaac. This thing looks dumb. Then I put it on. I was like, wow, this is Isaac. This thing looks awesome. He still looks like an engineer, but a little bit more, badass pretty much. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I wrote 2-foot feral grandma at one point. I don't know what that was for. And I'm pretty sure it was, I wanted to fight someone's 2-foot feral grandma over something in this game, but now I don't think I do. Yeah, that's it. That's Dead Space 2. I'd honestly give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. It lacks in some areas and has a major flaw at one point, but otherwise it's a really good game. And I guess that's it. This is the point of the video where I say thanks for watching. Hopefully I can get more videos out. Hopefully this video isn't bad. I think it is. I don't know. But thanks for watching. My socials will be down below. Mixer's dead, so I don't have that anymore. But thanks for watching. Watch some of my 2 other videos. And watch my Dead Space 1 quote-unquote review and crap all over it because I think it is horrible. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Share this with a friend. Bye.